All right, now that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is officially the Vikings GM, he's got to get out his little to-do list. He's got a lot of things to do. All right, welcome back to the One Bar and Lupagus show. I'm One Bar with Lupagus. Big day for Vikings fans. Big day for the Vikings franchise. What do you think?
Hell yeah. Shiny, brand new GM in the house. Cam, as we are calling him, is here. It's a whole different approach. He comes from a whole different school than Rick Spielman, so things are going to be different here in Minnesota. And he's got things to do. You already said it. He's got a to-do list, a honey-do list that he got from the Wilfs, and he's going to get on that thing right away.
Yeah, he's not just different than Rick Spielman. He's different than pretty much the NFL has seen at GM. Before we get into that, remember, subscribe to the channel, like the video, here every damn day, talking Vikings, hashtag skull in your hole. But, there's a lot of things he needs to do. But let's start off with the easiest ones, the number one things on his list.
Well, number one, he's got to get a head coach in here. He just got hired. Now it's time to get the coach. And we'll see what happens this weekend with the games. He's been linked to some guys on the Rams, been linked to some guys on the Niners. Whoever loses that game, good chance the next Minnesota Vikings head coach is from that matchup.
It could be, but I also think it's pretty much up in the air. I mean, he wasn't around when they were doing those interviews. I wouldn't be overly surprised if all of a sudden they interview somebody else or go a different route, at least to mess with our Purple Hearts, but not just the head coach. I mean, this is the whole coaching staff. There's not going to be many left behind, if any. So he's not just filling up a head coach. He's doing it all.
Well, you start with the head coach. Head coach usually hires his own guys, at least brings them in with approval from the general manager. So they will definitely work together, but I think the head coach will be bringing in the guys he wants. But if it's a guy here he knows, like a D'Amico Ryans, Kevin O'Connell, Raheem Morris, they'll probably be on the same page with most of the personnel. I can't imagine there'd be a whole lot of butting heads there. But that's got to come first. I think more than anything is figure out who your head coach is going to be. And I think he definitely has some say when he interviewed. I'm sure they asked him, all their candidates, who are some head coaches you would want to work with. So I'm sure some of those interviews that they already had were from mentions from these guys they interviewed.
Maybe we'll see that weird, fantastic offense coordinator Mike McDaniel from the Niners get in there. Love that guy. I love him so much. I want him to be our coach, but I love him.
I can't believe he's even real.
He's very, very real. So coaching staff, easy, 101. I would say that we're going to have a coach by mid next week. It depends on what the playoffs, but we'll see.
I agree with you there.
All right, number two, big question is, will he bring in an assistant GM, a guy that is very ripe, a guy that realizes, one thing that they've already said is he's going to keep on a lot of the scouting department because that's not his thing. And I love this about him where he just completely openly admits, that's not my thing. I'm not going to try to do it. He's very smart. So he's keeping that. Will he do the same thing and bring in an assistant GM to give him a hand, maybe somebody that's been around a while?
Yeah, Rick Spielman had his George Patton. Everybody's got their number two. Hell, he was a little assistant there in Cleveland himself. So he'll find somebody. I did see somewhere on Twitter on how reliable the source was that he does have connections to Catherine Raish, who the Vikings also interviewed for the general manager position. And I believe it would be an upgrade for her in rankings. So they wouldn't have to they can legally go out and get her if that's who he wants. So we'll see if that's the route they go or not. But it'd be very interesting to have the woman number two, and then this guy who comes from this analytical background as your GM guys making decisions. It'll be definitely a fresh thing in Minnesota.
Mixing things up. Catherine Raish, also her Wikipedia page already says she's the Vikings assistant GM.
Really? Spoiler.
Wikipedia has been wrong before. Things like that have happened when players have supposedly gone to a new team. Didn't happen. We'll see. No announcements yet, but Wikipedia, maybe they're in the know. But I do think he's going to bring on an assistant GM. The dude is too smart not to. He knows he can't handle this all on his shoulders. So, and not every team has assistant GM, but there's a handful out there. Mm-hmm. All right, next one, the big controversial topic, Vikings fans, and that is Kirk Cousins. What the hell is he going to do with Kirk Cousins? Talk about a decision right off the bat.
Yeah, it's a tough, and that's probably why a guy like Ryan Poles went elsewhere, because this is definitely this could be really a make or break decision. What Cam does here with Kirk Cousins, you try to get some kind of compensation for him in a trade. Do you keep him around for 1 year and try to go on a run right off the bat, or do you just eat bait, go? Do you try to restructure? What do you do? And I'm sure he had to answer that question in interview, so he must have a plan in place. we'll see. I don't know what kind of trade market there's going to be for Kirk Cousins. That's something we can talk about in future videos, but it's a huge decision and one he's got to figure out.
Do you eat bait or do you cut bait?
Didn't they say cut bait?
You said eat bait. You sounds like you just got hooked. You are in the boat. You're going to be on somebody's. You're going to be mounted on somebody's wall.
Could be worse.
Could be worse. It could be worse. Yeah, I mean, like you said, they had to have talked about this. They must know what they're going to do. That's got to be like one of the first questions you ask. What do you do with Kirk Cousins? I mean, there's things he might want to do. It's just a matter if he can actually do it. So we will see. We will see. So that's a big one. And final, as far as what is on his plate is when you look at the Vikings roster, not only Kirk Cousins, but there is some older, elderly vets out there with some very, very big contracts.
And that's what I think fans have to brace themselves for. Kwesi, he's got no ties to these guys. He's coming in as an outsider. He doesn't have that. The heartstrings aren't connected to these guys. Adam Thielen, he doesn't give two shits. Adam Thielen looks at his age, looks at his production, looks at his salary. Harrison Smith, same thing. Daniel Hunter, great player, injury prone. Do we keep him? Large contract. It's going to be expensive to keep him here. Delvin Cook, do we want to pay that much to a running back? There's all these decisions he has to make. And again, he doesn't have that connection the fans do. So it could be a lot of saying goodbye to some old time faces here in Minnesota coming up in the next few months.
We're gonna have to brace ourselves. Anything is on the table. Nothing. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, this guy, there's no way they'll get rid of this guy. There's no way they'll get rid of that guy. We have no idea what this guy has up his sleeves. And that's what I love about it. This offseason is going to be nuttier than squirrel shit. I love it. I think anybody is on the table. I mean, veteran-wise, you got to look. I mean, Eric Kendricks, I'm sure they're going to keep around, but Thielen, Dalvin, all these guys on the table, Hitman. And our Purple Hearts might be bleeding a little bit, but this team has not made the playoffs in 2 years, and they've been dog shit.
They might all be eating bait.
They might be all be eating bait. I really butchered that as well. So those are our main to-dos. We want to see in the comments, what do you think is going to be top of his list as far as what he's going to do, what he needs to do, what you hope he does. And as always, remember to subscribe.
Absolutely. And also keep your skull in your hole. And remember this, Britney Spears sold her pregnancy test on eBay for $5,000.